Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
You got Luke.
Luke, today we are, I guess it's not a series, but we're talking about another plane. It is the Lockheed Martin, sort of, F-22 Raptor.
I think it's definitely a series because we've talked about other planes before, right?
Yeah, we talked about the
plane
Wright brothers
series.
and their plane, and now the
Very
Raptor,
similar
which are
in nature.
both identical, practically.
Practical.
Identical planes.
Other than their radar signature. So I have to start with this, James. You ready?
I'm ready.
This has got to be maybe the best tagline of any like personal transportation, whether it's a plane or a car or a train or a bus.
If you consider a Raptor your personal transportation,
Well,
yes.
if
Okay.
if you're the pilot, it is.
Uh-huh.
F-22 Raptor, digital, dominant, ready.
That is pretty
Huh?
good.
Digital, dominant, ready? Tell
Yeah.
me that isn't like when I read that, I got goosebumps a little bit when I was on like the Lockheed Martin site, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's pretty cool.
I'm not going to tell you what's going on right now, but I liked that. That was good.
Exactly.
I think you should get a Fiverr account and do like voiceover work, and the government would probably hit you up to like record Raptor videos.
It's funny you say that because like 5 years ago, someone told me that. I made a Fiverr account and I said do voiceover. And, I think I put one example up there and I got like zero. Absolutely. You could probably find me on Fiverr if you looked it up right now.
I'm going to do that, I think.
But
maybe you needed more examples.
If you need voiceover, range. you got to pay me, even though we're friends and allies. But
wow,
from now on, you got to pay me to be on the podcast.
Well, when you want to hear my sweet voice, I will do it for free.
I just turn on Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Isn't very friendly.
It isn't.
Let's talk about the history a little bit.
I think we do.
Do you want me to do this or do you want you to do this?
I know you like your histories. I have some things that I've bolded that I've copied from the history that if you don't mention, I will feel compelled to mention.
What I think will happen here, Luke, is that I will skip over parts of the thing that we copied together, and then you can call out those parts that I skipped.
So here's my research theory. I Google it, and then I go not number 1, 2, or 3. I do like the third or fourth because I assume you're too lazy to scroll down 3. And if I pick on the fourth one, you won't get there. That's my theory for research.
I scroll past all the ads, so that takes me to page like 7, and then I'll usually do like the first 4 and like compare all of the
and you read
information.
All the Reddit stuff. You get in deep with Reddit and
Reddit's. I
don't even know what that is.
4chan and
okay, we should
Quora. Okay, the history. The Advanced Tactical Fighter Program. That's the ATF for those of you in the know like me. What was it again? Dominant what?
Dominant, digital, ready.
Oh, goodness. It had its origins in numerous U.S. Air Force air combat studies carried out in the 70s and 80s. Basically, what was going on here, Luke, is we had something called the Cold War. We had the Soviets, and they had all sorts of fancy planes. They had the Fulcrum and the Flanker, which let me just tell you, the Raptor, way better name. Therefore, we know it's going to win.
Way better name.
Right? So from the observed geometry, from certainly not spying, of the airframes of these Soviet airplanes, it was clear that both would have the vortex lift performance to challenge existing U.S. aircrafts, the F-15. And so America was like, you know what we need is a better plane to take down those Soviet ones. I'm going to be careful with what I say, given what's happening these days. Both Soviet fighters would be handicapped by their geometry in both supersonic maneuvering as well as with low observability performance. Dog fights. Yeah. Do you think you'd be a good dog fighting pilot?
So
I wouldn't.
I'm not going to say that I'm like the best driver I know, but I'm the best driver I know. And if there's any correlation to driving a vehicle,
which there should be,
flying a plane, I would think there is. I think I'd be a good pilot.
Okay. In 1981, the Air Force developed a requirement for this ATF to basically take over the airways. It included things like it needs composite materials and light alloys, advanced flight control systems, propulsion systems, and stealth technology, of course. And like always, Luke, two contractor teams showed up. There was Team Northrop McDonnell Douglas, and there was Team Lockheed Boeing General Dynamics that were selected to fight. Didn't we do one where they were like, we're having a contest, and one team showed up and were like, well, here's our idea.
I
And
think
they're
it was
like,
for the
you got
suits.
it.
I think it was for the space suits.
Oh, yeah, that was, I think, wasn't that like it was someone funny, like Playtex or
Yeah,
someone.
yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, October of 1986, this happened. And for the initial 50-month demonstration, 50, so that's over 4 year initial period
Mm-hmm.
for demonstration and validation phase between the YF-22 and the YF-23, which were their original names. The rollout of the prototypes were scheduled for mid 1989. So they started their spying back in the 70s. In 86, they started all of this, like, let's talk about it.
Competition.
And then in 89, middle of 89, they thought that they would be at a point where they'd have initial prototypes to roll out. Probably didn't happen. There's a little bit of slippage. So both of the prototypes are about 10% bigger than the F-15. They could carry twice the internal fuel, which means they can fly further and faster as well. And they had 50% more wing area and about 30% greater combat weight. And, like, oh, that sounds kind of bad, right? It's heavier, it's bigger, it's easier to shoot down, right? Well, good thing the technology's caught up, and therefore that's not the case. They could both do long-range air superiority missions and disrupt Soviet offensives in the air, which is super good. In August of 91, the YF-22 was declared the winner. So the F-22 passed a second milestone in 1991 as well. At that time, the Air Force planned to acquire 648 F-22 operational aircrafts for a measly $86.6 billion with a B.
With a B.
After that, there was like, government spending, and we don't really want to spend all that money. And the Soviets aren't quite as scary as they used to be. So maybe we don't spend as much money. That's basically the conversation that happened. And I think that happens a
verbatim.
lot. I was there, so I remember. So they decided, okay, we don't need 648 F-22s. We only need 442, which is a nice round number, with an estimated cost of 71.6 billion. So now I'm not good at the maths. I've told you this many times, but getting a third less planes, yet only saving $15 billion doesn't add up to me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, aren't most of the research costs already sunk in there because you have to design it still? All the production line costs are in there. So how does that math work out? None of it went to me.
Well, I mean, these are. I mean, they're in the business of making money, not say like Lockheed Martin and Boeing and General Dynamics. It's all to make money. They're not in this to be altruistic and save the United States from Russians. They're in it to make money.
To be fair, it was Soviets at the time.
Sorry.
All right, so the F-22 program had a bunch of difficulties because, this is really fancy new technology. Airframe design refinements had negative impacts on weight and drag. In particular, bumps resulting from the repackaging of internal systems caused increased drag. Drag's really bad when you want to be going really fast.
It is.
However, there is still a margin in currently estimated levels of weight and drag that were listed. It was kind of okay. They went back and fixed some stuff up. The engines began testing in December of 92. So remember, spying in the 70s. 86, they started the talks for, a 4-month period for demonstrations. We're up to 92 now when we're testing engines. Difficulties revealed in ground testing included performance shortfalls in the fan and turbine. It took me a while. Turbine and high stresses. And this is crazy. High stresses in the second fan blade and low pressure turbine blade. Like, this is the kind of analysis work that has to be done. And I mean, we're familiar with this kind of work, but to this degree, it's the second fan blade that was experiencing the high stress.
So the other thing too, just it's like a fun fact within the history. There was over 4,400 wind tunnel hours, 13,000 material sample tests that happened in development.
Yeah.
That wind tunnel time, that is over 1,800 days in a wind tunnel.
Oh my
If you
goodness.
added up those hours, it's over 1,800 days in a wind tunnel. That's
Isn't that
bananas.
crazy?
There was somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,496 flights, 7,616 test hours. I mean, talk about like, I guess if you're spending that kind of money and, you're defending the free world, you probably want to make sure it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I agree and I appreciate that. And, air tunnel testing is a lot cheaper than blowing up these very expensive planes. So, fabrication of the first parts of the first flyable F-22 began on December 8th of 1993, so already up to 93. Assembly operations began on schedule at the Lockheed Martin Tactical Aircraft Systems in June of 95. And the F-22 EMD program marked a successful first flight on the 7th of September, 1997. So that's only, 21 years after they started the program.
Here's on September September 7th, 1997. Vinny DeVino.
That's good name.
Good old Vinny DeVino, who led the...
Vinny's from New York, right?
Of course. He led the efforts to refine the design of the Raptor from the prototype FY-22 to the production F-22A. Was said to... he said this, apparently, on September 7th, 1997. The F-22 is flying. Everything else is now a target.
Wow, that's aggressive.
How awesome is that?
We should have had a cool line like that for the podcast.
I know. Every other podcast is a target.
Boom. Before we continue, and I just have a little more history to go, let's take a break for a word from our sponsor.
I'm pretty sure it's illegal, but I think Lockheed Martin, Boeing is...
Boeing actually is,
Boeing?
Is the one. Yeah, it's a hunting company, Boeing. We have no sponsors once again, but we do have shout outs, which I would take any day. Yeah, over
way
money.
Better than money.
First shout out, Eric K. Hi, James and Luke.
Is that how he said it?
Yeah. Hi, James and Luke.
Okay.
Which he must not listen because he knows that I do the emails. But anyways, I have recently become a fan of your podcast and thoroughly enjoyed the wealth of knowledge you fill my smooth brain with.
You're welcome.
He doesn't have a lot of wrinkles in his brain because he has not been filled with our knowledge yet. Yes, you are welcome. You're so polite. Upon listening to the moon landing episode, I was upset to learn that you two believe the moon is real. I wish to correct that naive thought and inform you that it is indeed a giant camera lens aimed at us all from the sky, where the reptilians wait in their airship base. Keep up the good work and don't forget your tinfoil.
So first of all, I love him.
I thought you would.
Like this, if we met, it would be like instantaneous friendship, like guaranteed.
I thought you'd be entertained by that
one.
I really enjoyed that.
That is good.
I had a good email back, I think. I can't remember what I said.
We need more thoughtful viewers, like sending that kind of gold in.
I know. I'm with you.
Good.
Second one, Mike F.
Good old Mike.
Yeah, good old Mike is right. I'm sure you got plenty of feedback already about the Transistors episode. Plenty.
Transformers?
Transistors.
Zisters.
More than meet the eye.
Okay.
Transistors.
Yep. I'm with
robots
you. Yeah.
in disguise.
We're on the same page.
But I just got to it and enjoyed it. I'm in my EE undergrad right now. And one of my professors has a super helpful and simple way of describing both circuits and transistors. We can think of voltage as water pressure and current as water flow. A transistor is a voltage controlled switch, so you could think of it as a pressure controlled gate on a pipe. The more pressure you apply to the gate, the more water that can flow through. If you apply enough pressure to the gate, it becomes fully open and acts like a regular pipe. It was a super great way for it to be described and made it much easier to understand. Hope that was helpful and interesting.
A little bit late, but I appreciate it.
Because yeah, when it would have been helpful was 20 years ago when I had my stupid EE 305 class that I failed. Thanks a lot, Mike. But it was actually helpful. That is a good way to think about it. For those mechanicals out there who hate EE like I do, Mike has the answer.
Well, my boy Steve always explained it, and I think I may have said it in that episode, told me that like you got to think of electricity as water flowing. Like when you take a whole bunch of wires and you put them all together like this and like expect them not to get warm or have problems. Like that was the whole my warm plug in my house because they wired the plug in correctly. If you just wire it differently, it's totally fine and safe versus like taking everything to a single point. Like if you did that with water, there'd be a problem. So you think of electricity as water.
Especially if you did that with water into your outlet. That would really be bad.
It would be really bad.
Back to the history. Oh, no.
Oh.
If any of you want us to give you a shout out, if you want to tell us about a water electricity problem, if you want to tell us how great our episodes were, if you want to talk about some crazy cheese, moon, alien, reptilians theories, anything like that, email us, especially Luke, at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com.
And don't forget to subscribe, like, share. We love the reviews as long as they're good. And as always, you can tell your smart devices to play the Unprofessional Engineering Podcast anytime.
And go to our store and buy some stuff. Nobody's bought anything in a really long time, and we're broke. We broke. Okay, so back to the histories, Luke. Technical problems included manufacturing problems with the titanium casting. Turns out titanium was kind of a new thing and it's finicky. Delamination of longerons. Structural weaknesses.
You have no idea what that word is you just said, is it? Delamination of whatever that word is.
I know what delamination means.
But you don't know what you don't know what it is, though.
I know what of is. Structural weaknesses in aft fuselage. You don't want structural weakness in your fuselage. I can tell you that.
Especially the aft fuselage.
Mostly the aft one. What's other than aft?
I don't know.
Anomalies and brakes. Inertial reference system and environmental control system. They called it nagging fuel leaks. Wasn't it the SR-71 that just leaks fuel if it's not flying fast enough and then it like holds together better? That's so funny. Check out that episodes. Problems with engine low pressure turbine blades, high pressure turbine blades and engine combustors, and problems with excessive engine vibration, which also turns out you don't want a lot of vibration going on. The Air Force reported that as of mid-1997, there were 97 issues limiting aircraft operations and 68 issues limiting ground maintenance. So, only 165 issues or something like that. Fun fact here, Luke, there's just two more things I have to tell you. Fun fact one, it did win the Collier Trophy. The Robert J. Collier Trophy is awarded annually for the greatest achievement in aeronautics or astronautics in America with respect to improving the performance, efficiency, and safety of air or space vehicles, the value of which has been thoroughly demonstrated by actual use during the preceding year. We have an award for everything, don't we?
Yes, they do.
I think we need some awards up in here. What do you think?
We do.
We do.
You said you had two things. What's the other one?
Last but not least, on the 23rd of September 2014, the F-22 went on its first combat mission. Pew, pew. The 70s, we started spying. Mid-80s, we said, hey, let's get this thing rolling. Almost 30 years later, it finally goes on a combat mission where it engaged ISIS ground targets in Syria. It was a mission which made a statement to the world by showing everyone that what the F-22 is capable of. Boom, boom.
That's a long time coming.
That is a long time coming. Like, it better have done a great job of blowing stuff up because 30 years is a long time.
Okay, here we go. We got to go through some characteristics.
I need these characteristics.
Some general characteristics specifically. A little slow.
No comment.
And I'm not doing every single one of them.
I hope
Primary function, air dominance.
That is so stupid.
I mean, that is
air mediocrity.
I love that. Like, is that what the F-15 is? Air mediocrity.
Air mediocrity.
Right
I think so.
So the power plant. There's two Pratt Whitney F-119 PW100 turbofan engines with afterburners and two-dimensional thrust vectoring nozzles. I'll talk about thrust vectoring a little bit
I'm glad
later.
you looked into that.
I did. So these things put out 35,000 pounds of thrust wingspan each. So whatever that is, 35 and 35 is somewhere like 60 and some change. I'm not good with the math.
70 maybe.
70 maybe. Wingspan is 13.6 meters. The length is 62
meters.
feet.
Why are you doing
The height
this?
is 5.1 meters.
I hate you.
The weight is 43,000 pounds. The maximum takeoff height or weight is 38,000 kilograms. I'm just doing this to make you mad now. So I'll get into some more interesting ones. The speed. Now, I don't think it says Mach 2 with supersonic capabilities. They're not going to list the speed on a website because, other people reading these websites that have nefarious intentions might look at this and be like, if we go Mach 2.1, we can go faster.
I remember when we were researching the SR-71 that it was like, this is basically newly disclosed information now that we don't care about this thing anymore, and that none of it was available previously.
I'm fairly certain that because of the research you and I've done the last 2 days, there's going to be black SUVs parked out in front of both of our homes, doing some surveillance on us for the next couple of weeks.
I thought you were going to say they were sponsoring us and this was part of it. Like, here's a new SUV.
No, there's going to be agents out front of our
way
house
worse.
making sure that we don't have, I love the word nefarious. We don't have nefarious intentions. So this thing can climb, or the ceiling, the maximum height is 50,000 feet.
That so doesn't seem that high.
It doesn't. I mean, but I'm sure that's not the real number either.
That's probably true as well.
So do you have anything else on the characteristics? I want to talk about cost and like a total number of.
It has all sorts of armaments, lots of bombs, lots of shoes, all that stuff. Go ahead about the cost.
Okay. So how much does it cost? So the cost is approximately 143 million, but you have to take
to make this sucker.
One of them. But you got to take into consideration like the lifespan of an F-22, because these things are like ridiculously expensive to maintain. I saw a number somewhere where it's $65,000 an hour to operate,
to fly this thing.
So total acquisition and operating costs over the lifespan of an F-22 is $228 million per aircraft. There were 195
I saw
total.
Up to 334.
I think there might be some in production, but like actually flying, running right now. Is
no. I meant the total price. Yeah, you're right.
So if you do some math.
What happened? 600 something to 400 something down to 195.
And then a couple crashed, and they only have like 100 and I think 92 now or something. But let's just say it's my conservative number, 228 million per. You multiply that by 195.
Oh goodness,
that's $44.46 billion for these aircraft. And then whenever you like read about what they do, they only engage where air superiority is required. If I'm like General whoever, I'm like, this is taking me to like golfing this weekend, and like, we're gonna go bomb like this place. I would use it for absolutely everything if I.
It's only $68,362 an hour to fly, so why not?
May as well take me golfing this weekend,
right?
Absolutely. It's a one-seater, so unless you know how to fly, you're out of luck.
Luke, before we go on with any more of this information, we need to take a break for this week's Luke's Rant.
So I'm keeping it aviation. Ooh. And very, very similar to the F-22 Raptor is the Southwest Airlines DC-9.
Similar, yeah.
I don't know if it's a DC-9 or not.
Which one do you think is more closely related? The Raptor to that, or the Wright brothers plane?
The Wright brothers plane is far closer to the South. If you think it's like the technology and the materials,
that's what I'm wondering.
Like, it's got to be closer. Like generationally, they're definitely closer.
Okay.
So this isn't specifically about like the aircraft itself, but so I'm going out to Utah this summer for a wedding, and I'm like, I will go and like look at airfare kind of early and see what it is and check every now and then, and I know and you're a digital marketer, James. We were just talking about this before. You were. But there's all these like cookies and things that your computer remembers. And like Southwest knows when I go there, and like when it's the second time I've gone and the fifth time I've gone.
Yeah.
So like, I have seen
They're
the
like,
price.
you're going to Michigan.
No, not that. Like the price has changed dramatically from like literally one day to the next. Like, okay, me and the whole family are flying. What's the price for 3 tickets? You know, Pittsburgh to Utah. It's like, oh, it's $218 for the My Way fare, like the super cheap. You get no bags. You got to hang on from the exterior of the plane, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, that's not bad. And then like the next weekend, I'm like, hey, let's look at that again. It's like $395. So it literally almost doubled in price. And then I waited like another like day or two because we were like, oh, let's just wait a little bit. I don't want to like book that yet. And now they're like $417. It's just like, how does that happen from one day to the next? And I'm guessing it's demand, like there's fewer seats so they can charge more. But who's going to Utah in June?
I don't know.
Who's going, James?
You and the rest of the wedding people, I guess.
So
have you ever been to Utah?
I have not. I am really, really looking forward to it.
I like Utah.
I may end up living there after I go because
Ooh.
it seems like my kind of place.
Yeah, it does kind of seem like your kind of
very
place.
granola-y. If I could convince the wife to like cold weather, I think we could be there.
If we had more time in this episode, I'd tell you my Utah story, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
Well, I know there's supposed to be like a Goldilocks period for flights, like not too soon, not too late. But well, good luck. I hope you can afford it. Get us those endorsements, right?
Yes.
Where are we at? What do you
the rest I got
next?
is like a bunch of fun facts, and I want to make sure we talk about thrust vectoring control at some point.
I do want to talk about that. Let's talk about I'll do fun facts and then you can do thrust vectoring control.
Cool.
Love it. Fun fact, Luke, about 50% of maintenance performed on the F-22 is related to repairing the low observable stealth coatings that are damaged when the aircraft is opened up for routine maintenance. Turns out they don't want to be seen. This is funny. The Pratt & Whitney F-119 engines are designed to allow standard flight line maintenance using 6 common tools available at commercial hardware stores.
So basically,
that's all you need.
So basically, you need like a Leatherman, like the pilot.
Yeah, all you need is a Leatherman. Yeah. You and I could be fixing these.
So you were talking about like radar and like stealth and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, this is crazy. I know what you're going to say.
Because of the wing configuration and yada, 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 when you look at this thing on radar, they say it's the size of a bumblebee. Like, that doesn't even make any sense to me. Like, because like a bumblebee is like the size of like one of the bolts that would potentially be in it, let alone I just don't get how that works. Like,
yeah,
we should do a whole thing on like radar
we could
detection
do that.
And like how do you hide the profile? Like if you just look at it, you see it. Like,
but it's way up. It's 50,000 plus feet in the air though.
It is.
My eyes are good, but they're not that good, which is why I have these glasses on so I can see F-22 bumblebees. Something about the speed, that's boring. F-22 can carry a large number of weapons it has 4 hard points on the wings. That's kind of interesting. All which can carry about 5,000 pounds and are capable of holding extra fuel as well. I
have a couple things on the weapons. Can I do them?
Let's hear the weapons. Yeah.
So you mentioned 5,000 pounds of hard point bolts times 2 for each wing. There's an M61A2 cannon, 480 rounds. There is 2 AIM 9Xs, whatever the heck those are, some kind of missile. There's 6 AIM 120s. There's 1,000 pounds of JDAM, whatever JDAM is. It sounds terrible, but they got like 1,000.
I don't want to talk about.
They got 1,000 pounds of it. Like literally because of the wing configuration. I think you said it earlier. It literally carries double the amount of pretty much any other aircraft out there. So
yeah, when they're flying, let's say they're shooting these cannons you're talking about.
Pew, pew, pew.
That's the noise for sure. We know that for a fact, but I assume they can't really feel it, right? Or they have to, like, when they fire, maybe they do it on both sides. Like, you can't throw off the flight when you're moving at that speed, right?
Yeah.
There must be something going on there.
There's got to be
That's way past me.
Yeah, some kind of compensation.
Yeah. The F-22 cannot be exported out of the U.S. according to U.S. federal law in an attempt to keep our stealth technology classified.
Unlike some other aircraft, they sell or make them, but this one, no.
Yeah. Japan tried to buy some, and they said, nope, sorry, Japan. With a kill ratio of 108-0, the F-22 surely manages to live up to its name. According to reports from the exercise Northern Edge 2016, the F-22 had to compete with the F-15, which it came to replace, and came on top with a kill ratio of 108-0. It has maintained good ratios even against some of the most advanced aircrafts out there as well. You talked about the Bumblebee on the radar. Oh, this one's neat. The software for the F-22 consists of 1.7 million lines of code, the majority of which is linked to the processing of radar data. So that's pretty crazy. And then the last thing that I had is how agile it is due to thrust vectoring. And with that, Luke, I will hand it over to you.
Okay, so I think we talked about I think we talked about thrust vectoring before, but so
we might have.
I would say most traditional jets.
Oh, what's the airplane? The Osprey.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so the aircraft that can lift off like a Harrier has a certain type of thrust vectoring where the Harrier can go, up and down and forwards and backwards using thrust vectoring. It's basically for landing and takeoff thrust vectoring. It doesn't aid in any like aerial, kind of stuff. And when you think of most traditional, like the F-15, you got an engine, it's statically mounted, and it shoots thrust in a single direction, and the plane is essentially steered by all the different flaps and all the things to turn it, but the engine points one direction, like thrust goes one single direction, and then the rest of the things on the plane steer it. The thing that's interesting about the F-22 is not only does it have all those steery parts, the flaps and all that sort of stuff, but the exit of the thrust, for lack of a better way of describing it, this thing is like on a gimbal, and it actually can aid in cornering. So imagine if you're, a pilot and you're making a hard right, you want your thrust to kick your back end over. So the actual engine itself pivots and pushes the thrust so to kick so like the maneuvering of this plane, like when you see this thing maneuver it, like it's insane how it maneuvers. And where I saw this initially was, if you look at the way the Falcon lands, the Elon Musk Falcon, those use thrust vectoring. Like you can see those single engines like basically updating based off of the software and all the different things it needs to do to land. Now you take that and you put that in a plane and you fly it. Like apparently the handling on this is like a hypercar, James. Just saying.
Check out our episode on hypercars.
But yeah, so thrust vectoring, essentially the engine itself aids in the flight path direction, whatever the technical term is. So I think I got that right.
I think you did a good job. What did you say? 20 degrees up and down they can move? That's pretty
something
good.
Like that. It's pretty significant.
We really should do an episode. I know we've done SpaceX in general and Elon. We should really do one about like the landing and like how they're reusable. Like I feel like that changes so much.
Looks like magic. Like when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is one of those videos where it's not real. And then I was like, oh,
they have a green screen in the back.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You had something else?
I have like one more fun fact.
Sure.
The helmet that they wear.
Oh yeah.
$400,000 estimated.
Yeah, it's super cheap.
And then I do want to give like a shout out. I'm not going to list every one of them, but like different squadrons across, the country fly the F-22 Raptors. And I saw their badges, like their patches, like they all got the cool patches. And there's like,
who is this that's flying them?
The squadrons that actually fly the F-22s that actually, if they have to go bomb somebody, like these guys get called up and they go out and pew, 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 they take care of business, right? So they got the coolest looking patches. So like there's like the 411 Flight Test SQ. There's the 19th Fighters SQ. There's the 525 Fighters SQ. But the coolest
SQ
one,
Squadron.
I'm assuming. But the one that's the best name at least, it's the 433rd Weapon Squadron, and they are Satan's Angels is their name, and their patch is like,
I don't know what that even means.
It's like the devil with like stars and like a halo on one horn. Like I want to
They're
go.
like biker gangs, but different.
Their patches are awesome. If you ever get a chance, look up F-22 Squadron patches and all of them. I think there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12. There's 13 different squadrons that actually fly or support the F-22 Raptor, which they're super cool. But some have dice on them. One has a bulldog. Yeah, they're pretty
weird
cool.
looking thing. The Screaming Demon Raptor Driver. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Very cool. Oh, there are dice. Oh, I love it. This was a good call out, Luke. You should have made this a game and had me guess if these were real or not. Next time. I agree with that. All right. Well, if any of you are better at things than we are, if you have anything to add to our F-22 episode, you just want to tell us how great it was, if you have some suggestions on what we should be doing next, why don't you email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. And until next time,
see ya.